So we have here with us Mike Eaton, one of the experts of the TAB, with us today to talk a bit about the transition from research to development. So Mike, as we have been discussing a while ago, there isn't a very clear view what is the difference between and the transition between research to development. So what is your view on that?
Well, you're absolutely right, Rui, and that not many people understand it. They think it's a continuum, but it's not. People talk about developing a drug when they're researching a drug. Research runs to a certain point. You select your best candidate at that point in time, and it's really, really important you choose the best candidate, and you might want to go on for another 6 months or whatever to get a better candidate. At that point, it transfers into development, and that becomes a much more expensive process indeed. And once you're there, it's impossible to take the candidate back by and large, so the project would fail once it gets beyond there. So those are some of the factors anyway.
So when I'm trying to develop a drug, first of all,
well, you're not developing a drug. You're not developing the drug. You're researching the drug.
Oh, I see.
And then you'll take it to the point of a point of concept, a proof of concept, if you like, the transfer between R to D, and it then goes to D. In an industry, that will be a separate group of people working on it in development, and a point of conflict and disagreement and politics, if you like, because people don't want bad projects, and equally well, the researchers don't want the embarrassment of passing on a bad project either. So it's really important to get the criteria right, and you can look at those criteria in my paper, which is quite well known, is available on the Enotrans website, I presume.
Yes, we do
and
share it
you can download it for free from the Elsevier website as well. So there's lots of ways you can get it. There's no real excuse not to know these criteria. Anyway, carry on.
Okay, great. Thank you. And for example, what is your view, since we are discussing the paper and all, what is your view on the Europe vision and their preparation for this transition? Do you think all the concepts are clear, or is there a lot of work to be done?
Well, I think there's a lot of work to be done, and I think I have tried my best to list all the criteria required at that point in transition. But it definitely has to be understood. You prepare your best candidate, it goes forward, and you stop work then on that candidate, believe it or not. You don't continue to work on that candidate. It goes into research. And at that point, into development. At that point, development is in control of the whole process.
Okay.
So if they want research still done on that project, fine, but they control what's done on it, because it's very dangerous for research working on the drug and development taking on into development. So there has to be control from development from that point on. And there's no way back. Once it's in development, it either runs or it fails, really. So it's quite a risky process. It's costing, really probably millions of dollars compared to in the research phase the tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's really important it's the right candidate.
Okay, so you only have one shot.
You only get one shot. You probably don't get a second shot. You can, in principle, continue to work on a backup candidate if that's agreed, but that wouldn't be something that would immediately follow on. So it might be years later. You have your best candidate. What you certainly wouldn't do is put your best candidate on the market and then within 3 or 4 months put a better candidate on, because that would be a complete a disaster, really.
In a waste of resources.
In waste of resources, really. So you'd be looking to something really dramatically better than what you're putting in currently into development.
I see. Thank you for your view on that.
Pleasure.
And speaking of which, following that, on top of your battle to change the vision on this, so do you think there is anything, for example, the funding programs at the European level, do you think there is anything that could be done as well to instigate this transition, to focus the projects more on development? Because when you are funding something, you want it to have the return and to have a result. So you think there is no stimulus for this?
Well, the really important thing is, and we can do the best job we can within the Enotrans organization in terms of recommending things and science and so on. But it already starts, all of this starts, the R&D process starts really from the funders and ideation. And the funders really must understand the difference between R&D as well. And most important of all of this is the peer review process for projects which are applied projects. And I'm not talking about research, basic research, I'm talking about applied science. There, the people should have applied science knowledge and experience of development. And currently what I see is many projects across really the world, or even certainly in Europe, don't have that sort of expert knowledge to actually peer review the projects they're seeing. And people, unfortunately, there's no real training for development science additionally. Inside Europe, we do a first-class job of preparing people for global basic research.
Okay.
But we still do a relative, and we're well known for this problem in development. And part of it stems from the fact we don't actually train people in development science. So that's also a problem. So there aren't the people there trained, apart from the industry, of course.
Okay, so perhaps for this we should involve more the people with industrial experience and not only researchy.
Yeah, need more.
Viewers.
You should have panels consisting predominantly or entirely of industry experienced individuals. And I think we have to think about giving graduates more training in development science as well. Because not everyone goes on to do basic research.
Yes.
Some people go on to do development, and so we're not preparing people for those careers, and that's the job of universities, to prepare them for both for R and D. And one of the criticisms often made of Europe is it's good at researching things, but not good at capitalizing, commercializing them. And perhaps part of this is the fact we don't actually train people for developing their ideas into products to help patients, really.
Oh, I understand. And following that thought process of training people, so what would be your major advice for, especially, for example, our applicants for the TAB and all those willing to participate that want to make the difference? So what is your advice and your short advice for them to focus
I think
this?
I mean, it's a subject of a really quite a long talk, I guess, really, but for me, ideation is the most important step. People think of ideas. Not all ideas are equal. They don't all have value. So it's really thinking about new concepts and putting them into a translational frame, really. And I think we can do, and we will do more on that. You can look at it in the paper, but I think additionally we're going to try and put out more information via Enertrans on what should be required to help people make that step forward, really.
Okay, great. Perfect. Thank you so much for your insight on this. And just to sum up, to be really short, so it should be clear that research is one thing and development is another, and it is not a two-way street.
That's correct. But I also know that people can adapt to the industrial criteria as well. I've seen many cases where there's people often say, well, we don't have the experience in it, but necessity is the mother of invention, and people are extremely clever and adaptable, and Darwinian principles apply here. And if as a result of adapting and preparing the right paperwork, ideas in the right logical order, they will do so. I have absolutely no doubt about that.
Okay, great. So there is still hope.
Absolutely. I'm absolutely not negative on this at all.
Okay, perfect. And we will work forward on it with your help, of course.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much, Mike, for your support and for your insight on this. And that would be all for now. We will surely go back to your paper in the future and focus on the ideation, which is very crucial for this as well.
Yeah.
Thank you once
Pleasure.
again.